Isn't that awesome? So I want to explain what's going on here. So what you just saw was um, Dino Joe. If you don't watch him on YouTube, you definitely should. All right. But if you know about my channel, you surely know about his. But that's Joe with his MS 170 that he built for this competition. And he didn't have time to hook the nitrous up and everything. And so they had the idea that Garrett Barker, would hold the trigger on this nitrous canister and just spray it right into the intake. And that worked, right? But it didn't work good enough, all right? And so what they did then was Garrett had 2 cans of the nitrous for whenever one ran out. Then you can start the other one. And then once both of those were gone, that's Morgan McGinnis, he would jump in with the third for the third cut, right? And so that Joe would have nitrous for all 3 cuts, 1, 2, 3. And even with that done, what was it, like 14 seconds? It was still super slow. Let me see real quick here. There we go. So even with 3 bottles of nitrous, that damn thing only did 14 seconds. Or I mean, it took 14 seconds to do 3 cuts. And that's why I'm calling these saws turds. If you keep one in stock trim, maybe muffler mod it, yes, they can last for a long time cutting little branches that big around. But you know what else can last for a long time cutting little branches that big around and still be capable of cutting branches this big around? A Husky 55. And so that's why I can't possibly understand why people buy these little turd saws. But that's coming from somebody who has bought one. Genuinely. I purchased one about 5 years ago for my wife to use. Once I found out that she actually still wasn't going to use it, you can't get her to use a chainsaw. She wasn't going to use it. Then I was like, okay, I'm going to sell this thing. I used it as a root saw for a little bit, and just cut roots that whenever I was digging a post hole or something like that, I'd cram that stupid thing down in there. So they have their uses. Okay, so I don't think anybody's getting offended by me calling them a turd, but I do understand, some people's like one guy I believe he was talking about the Poland Wild thing or that type of saw and how he's used it for 19 years. Another guy was commenting on the MS 162 channel or video that he had a MS 170 for years and years and years and made a lot of money with it as a climbing saw. Well, here's the deal. I don't climb. And so to me, there's just no place for them in my world. They're junk. You got to be understanding. I'm understanding of your side. You've kept it stock and you've utilized it and it's worked out well for you. And I'm good. I'm happy about that. But how many people are doing what you're doing? You could say a lot because maybe 2,000 people are doing it. So that's a lot of people, right? No, that's not a lot of people at all. And so I just look at it and I'm like, one of the subs hit it on the head. It's a ploy. It's a scheme. What they're doing is they suck you in, getting you a saw that's cheap and has a good name brand on it, right? Husky does it too. It's not me bashing Stihl, no. But they suck you in and get you to buy one of these cheap saws because you're like, I ain't never had a chainsaw before, you know. Uh, I don't need a big one. I just need this little one. And then you get it, and it's not big enough for the task at hand. But you go, but it does always start up and run. I'm going to get it. I'm just going to get the next bigger thing. And then it progresses on and on and on. Because once brand loyalty starts, it's hard to veer off from that. I mean, Husky got me. I went into Tractor Supply, and they were selling Husqvarnas, and I asked them. This was this is right around 2002. My son was just born, and so 2002, or 2003, that 2002 2003, that winter, I went into Tractor Supply. I wanted a chainsaw, and I just said, I know that these Husqvarnas are good saws, right? Which one of these should I have just for small work around the house? And they was like, you should get this one. And I can only guess that it was a Husky 55. That's straight guess. It could have been a Husky 350. It could have been a 353. It could have been a lot of things, but my guess is it was a Husky 55. That's probably what they had there on the shelf at Tractor Supply in 2002, 2003. And they were like, this one right here was a great saw. And I can remember I was like, I loved it. I was like, this is an awesome saw. But what it was I had rented a house. Boy, I'm getting off track. I had rented a house, and it had a fireplace. I was real young. I was like, I don't know, 24, something like that. And I was like, oh, this is going to be great. I'm going to build a fire in that fireplace. The first fire I built, we got smoked out. We didn't know what we were doing. And so as quickly as it started, it stopped. I was like, oh, never mind. We'll just use the heat pump. And so I had this pristine chainsaw that had only been used one or two times, and I ended up selling it at a yard sale. But then years later, whenever I came back to it, I came back to Husqvarna. So they grab you with that initial purchase, and I get it, But here is where I'm at right now, and I can't for the life of me understand why people buy those cheap little saws. Unless, I can understand money. Absolutely. If you can't afford, in this day and time, right now, right? I'm looking at it and I'm like, Echo 4910s are on sale at Home Depot for, I don't know, what, $300, something like that, right? I'm like, buy that. Well, somebody might be like, I don't have $300. Okay, I can understand that. Got to buy the cheap stuff because of that. But other than that, I don't, whatever. Anyways, I've been rambling. The 3 nitrous bottles on that MS-170 was awesome to watch. I mean, all of us were like laughing, and and the guys doing it, cool idea, loved it. So I'll go ahead and just throw this out here because, I do multiple videos, so I'll say this more than once. The reason the nitrous wasn't working, and it worked this way, right? It was too cold and too wet. So everybody, as soon as they were hitting their triggers, it froze up in the line. All the moisture just froze. The orifice would freeze shut, either coming directly out of the actual canister or at the tip down there towards the carburetor. It was immediate. I think I got a half a cut or maybe one full cut out of mine, and it froze up. I don't think I got that much. But everybody was doing that. Everybody that was running nitrous, no one thought that it was going to be cold and wet. And even if we had thought that, we're pretty. Even though I did this last year, I'm still new to nitrous. I don't know what's going on. But that's the refrigeration process. That's how it works. What we do is we take a liquid that vaporizes at a very low temperature, right? Like a perfect one to throw out there, I think is R11. R11, I think, has a evaporation point, or maybe it's the old one. The old one is what I'm talking about. Was it R10? R12? The one that got banned, outlawed in like the early 90s. That stuff, you would get it in a bucket. And it's a refrigerant. It would come in a bucket because it evaporated at like, I don't know, 60 degrees or something like that. Maybe even lower than that. But we control the pressure of it in a gas-ish state. And sometimes it's liquid, sometimes it's gas. But whenever it's going through the liquid line, it's liquid. It's hardcore liquid, just like this coffee. And then whenever you send it through a metering device, it comes out on the other side at a lower pressure. The lower pressure changes the evaporation point. So whereas before it was evaporating, I'm just throwing numbers out here, at 60 degrees Fahrenheit. Whenever it goes through that orifice, it's at a lower pressure. There's a pressure drop, and that 60 degrees Fahrenheit evaporation point, or boiling point, let's say that, because that's what it is, boiling point, has changed to 32 degrees boiling point. And so now you're looking at what does it take to make a liquid boil. There's only one thing: heat. You can't get around it. You have to have heat in order for it to boil. Okay? So by changing the pressure, we're changing the point at which it boils, but it still requires heat. And so that's why on the cold side of an air conditioner, the evaporator side, it's cold to the touch, because all of the liquid that's in there is boiling off rapidly because we have changed the pressure. And by changing the pressure, we change the boiling point, and it is forced to boil. But it still can't get away from the physics of it, and what it requires to boil is heat. So it takes the heat from the ambient air around it, and that's why it feels cold to the touch. So that was happening with our nitrous bottle. We had a refrigeration effect going on, and it was too cold and too wet. There was too much moisture in the air, and it was too cold. And every time everybody hit that button, it was freezing up. Cool, right? I like the refrigeration process. It's very cool. That is man triumphing over nature. It's really awesome. I have made water boil at room temperature. Anyways, it's cool. I dig it. And it's pretty cool that, the reason nobody's nitrous was working, it was freezing. You saw Garrett shaking it, and trying to get more and stuff like that, but it was freezing up at the tip. Now, whether he figured that out or not, I'm not certain. And I got to give credit to Morgan, because Morgan's the first person that said it, and it made me go, oh. Because, okay, I saw it whenever I used my 170. I saw it happen. My line just completely frosted up immediately. And I was like, I didn't think much. But then Garrett did that in his competition, and Morgan said, he said, your line froze up immediately. And I was like, oh, that's what's going on. So then I started talking about it with other people and everything and stuff. But Morgan deserves the credit on that one. he's the first person I heard saying it, anyways. And I was like, "Yep, that's exactly it," because I saw it happen to mine too. I just didn't put it together. Anyways, there you have it. I hope you enjoyed the video.